It has been another rock and roll week in the news in South Florida, and we want to try now to make some sense of the top stories with our Powerhouse Roundtable. As always, we've got a good one for you. Rafael is a political analyst and attorney in Miami who I think comes at things generally from the center right. He will tell me differently if I'm wrong. Melba Pearson is the deputy director of the American Civil Liberties Union of Florida, a former Miami-Dade County assistant state attorney. Marili Cancio is an attorney with her own firm in Miami, and she is an influential voice in Republican politics. Good morning. Great to have you.
Good morning.
You all come in. So let me begin with the esteemed Melba Pearson. You know, here the president Tuesday night in Orlando, a kind of a buffo performance, 20,000 people in that arena, but he spent a lot of his time sort of litigating old battles. I mean, he talked about Hillary Clinton a lot, about the Mueller report, instead of things that he's really got going for him, like a great economy. Why do you think that is?
The entire rally to me struck me as a rerun of 2016, right? He basically hit play and did the same thing all over again. And the other thing that perturbed me was that there was no discussion about the things that brought our country together, right? So, or how can we move forward? It was all about divisiveness and anger. And I also want to point out how that Orlando Sentinel reporter got hit in the crowd. And I think it was Representative Sabatini, the one who had appeared in blackface previously several years ago, had been like, oh, make America great again. So again, that same tone and tenor of divisiveness is still present. And he has currently almost close to 200 lawsuits against him, a lot of them filed by the ACLU. So, the walking constitutional crisis hasn't changed, and nothing he said on stage changed that fact.
Yeah, but Marili, I mean, as always, the president is kind of a mixed metaphor. There are things to admire. He's a great communicator. He really reaches people. But then, going back over this past battles, relitigating Hillary Clinton, for goodness sake, 30,000 emails. I mean, that's something that's in the past.
But I think it's something that appeals to his base. We need to have a bad guy on the other side, and he was very effective in his campaign in 2016, having her as the opponent. We don't know who's going to be the Democratic nominee, so he's still using her. I think he had a good message for his base, a lot of successes. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? The economy is doing much better. There's so many positive points. Criminal justice reform, they're passing in a bipartisan manner, how he's renegotiating so many things. No, more federal court appointees than any other president in this period of time. How the world as a whole, even with what's happening with Iran right now, it's a safer place. He's negotiating. This is not a warmongering president. He wants peace. He's an ally of Israel. Economy doing well.
Yeah,
but he wants peace. I mean, he's calling for our leaders, Rocket Man. He's, go to the Mon, and didn't he try to call off? There was strikes against Iran or something. He was going to launch a missile strike against Iran, and then he called it off. So that to me is not somebody
more likely than not, the international community and our allies spoke with him, because it's better to have an international response. I mean, it was a Japanese oil tanker, one of the two tankers that were sunk last week, and we have to think about what our international response should look like. We shouldn't be America alone when the entire world faces the threat from Hezbollah and Iran.
You need a coalition of allies. Well, everybody, hold on just a minute. We want to show you, if you happen to miss the big rally Tuesday night and the surprise announcement that he's running for re-election, here's a little bit of what the president had to say.
Our radical Democrat opponents are driven by hatred, prejudice, and rage. They want to destroy you, and they want to destroy our country as we know it. Not acceptable. It's not going to happen.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, that's the pot calling a kettle black.
What a dark dystopian message. It sort of harkens back, Rafael, to his inaugural address. He had some of that same kind of language then.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because I want to draw a parallel to rock concerts and musicians, right?
Yeah.
When you go see a musician promoting their new album, you're not only hearing their greatest hits from the new album, you're going to hear all of their hits, anything that's played well with their audience before. So to your point earlier, everything that Trump has received a massive applause line for, he's going to bring out in every rally.
Yeah, well,
This is
like
about our
lock,
democracy. This is
lock
not a
her,
concert,
lock
you
her
know?
up. I mean, but you're
Yeah.
right, it does appeal.
But Michael, sadly, you had CNN just cutting off the rally and after like 6 or 7 minutes and not showing the rally. Now, Fox News or the Fox channel that has #1 ratings in cable news, and other stations show the rally, but MSNBC, CNN, they just cut off. And I think that's not positive. I think everybody should have heard the message. Someone says, well, maybe CNN doesn't want to show it at airports. They don't want people all over to hear this message. But, I thought that the rally was good. It showed a lot of enthusiasm. He raised almost $25 million in 24 hours,
Yeah.
like more than like the 5 top Democratic candidates combined in their first 24 hours.
It was a remarkable amount of fundraising, $24 million. He went out to the Trump National Doral on Wednesday. I was standing outside trying to find out what was going on, but apparently 100 people were there, gave $6 million to have lunch and have a photo taken with the president. Melba, I have to say the Washington Post has a very strong piece in the paper today in which they point out that about a third of the political events the president has had happen at Trump properties, and he realizes a profit from all the people who go and stay and attend these events.
And that is a clear conflict of interest. I mean, we have the emoluments clause, which is in place to prevent elected officials from benefiting personally from their role as, instead of serving the people. And again, this is something that needs to be addressed. And if Congress is not willing to do it, then the voters need to address it at the ballot box next November.
Well, Congress, I don't think is very interested. One lone congressman from Tennessee has said, "Hey, this is wrong," but I don't hear any great outcry. Rafael, the president's message could be, I think that Marili is right. The stock market this week hit an all-time high. The economy, even though it looks like it may slow down a little bit in the coming quarter or two, the economy is buzzing along. Unemployment at 3.5%. I mean, there are some really good things that he could and perhaps should be talking about more.
Right, and unfortunately, talking about almost being at full employment and talking about how minority groups that disproportionately have shared high unemployment rates are now more employed than ever before. He's not talking about it because he and his team probably don't think that's going to sell. That's not going to necessarily motivate. He did talk about the economy briefly during the rally last week, but he's not going to go into the nitty-gritty details. We've all read the reports that he doesn't really want to read, that he prefers sound bites. He's a man of television. He was made with television.
Right.
He's not going to sit there and read an economic report or a jobs report to a 20,000 strong crowd in Orlando.
Yeah, but he knows how to be on TV, no question. Well, everybody, hold your thoughts. We're going to come back, talk about this new poll that shows, in fact, President Trump losing to Joe Biden in Florida. We'll have that when we come back. Welcome back. We are in the midst of a roundtable with the estimable Rafael Yanez, attorney, also Melba Pearson, an attorney, Marili Cancio, an attorney. I am not an attorney.
We're starting a law firm today.
Right? Imagine. Oh my God.
Anyway, let's talk a little bit about I think, I don't know, astounding but kind of surprising poll. Marili, this week, the Quinnipiac University poll came out. This is a reputable poll. They're actually pretty accurate. And we want to put the numbers up on the screen so people at home can see. But it found that in Florida, Joe Biden would beat Donald Trump if the election were today, 50 to 41%. And even Bernie Sanders would beat President Trump, 48-42. Elizabeth Warren, Beto O'Rourke, even Mayor Pete would tie with him. I don't put a lot of credence in polls this early, but what's your impression?
It's a picture in time of a group of people, and that's what they found. But those same polls said Andrew Gillum would win by 7 points. Those same polls had Hillary Clinton beating Trump all along. So I don't put a lot of weight in those polls. We still have a long way to go, 15 months to the general election.
Yes, yeah.
So
17 months, yeah.
Those polls really don't mean much to me right now.
Yeah, but Melba, the one thing the poll does say to me is that even though the president's base in Florida and across the country is fairly stable at 42%, there are a lot of people who like the economy or like some other things that he does, but he is just not that popular with people, and I don't think he can pretend otherwise.
That's absolutely true. I mean, the news that's been in the headlines for the last couple of years have been between children in cages and, being derogatory towards different immigrant groups and all of that. After a while, people are tired of it and want to get back to government and policies and the economy and criminal justice reform and the things that they care about on a day-to-day basis. But I do agree with Marili, these are early days, right? And we learned the hard way in 2016 that the polls can be completely wrong. So
And they were wrong.
And they were wrong.
Yeah,
So it's a matter
they
of
were.
focusing on the issues and making sure we're holding all the candidates accountable and finding out what their positions are on the issues
Michael,
that we
what
care
the
about.
context is missing from these polls, especially this early on with a Democratic field numbering in the 20s, you don't know how voters, the middle of the road voter in Florida, let's use our home state, is going to look at their choice, Democrat X or Donald Trump. And they're going to weigh, how's the economy? Do I trust this newcomer? Do I want to give my next 4 years potentially to this newcomer? And they might go with, I prefer the devil I know, even if I don't like him, versus the devil I don't know.
And I think there's another point, which is whether that candidate is going to energize the Democratic base to go out and vote, or are they going to be, or the Republicans are going to be energized to go out and vote more so. I think a lot of Republicans were very energized to go vote against Senator Clinton, and so let's see who that other person is going to be, and I think it's going to be key, and Florida's key. We're going to be seeing all the events down here. We're going to see all the politicians down in Florida, because whoever wins Florida is going to win the election. No candidate has won the presidency without Florida since 1924, almost 100 years.
And we're going to have 800,000 or more new voters as a result of Amendment 4. So that's going to be an interesting
new dynamic.
You think that high?
dynamic.
You really think it's going to be that many?
They're
Melba,
not all Democrats, unlike what
Right.
some people
well,
fear.
I'd say
No,
95.
not even
Right.
remotely. I was there. I actually watched folks get registered,
really?
and many of them registered. They told me afterwards.
Yeah.
I didn't ask, I didn't inquire, but many indicated they were registering as independents because they had waited so long to get their right to vote back that they were not going to just give it away to either party.
Yeah.
They wanted to learn about the issues. Granted, we have our primary issue, which is a separate. They're going to have to make a decision, but
Right.
at least they're looking to look at all the issues and all the candidates and make
Yeah.
an educated decision.
Rafael, on Wednesday and Thursday of this coming week, going to be fascinating. Miami will be the political capital of the country
Yes.
when the Democratic candidates for president all debate 2 consecutive nights down at the Arts Center, and 10 on one night, 10 on another. And the one who got the really luckiest draw, I think, is Elizabeth Warren on the first night. She will really have a platform, and her campaign seems to have been energized in the last 5 or 6 weeks because of ideas. She has got a plan for everything, maybe too many plans. I mean, didn't Hillary Clinton have a plan for everything? How'd that work out?
Right. I think Elizabeth Warren is going to be the one to watch on Wednesday night, and it's truly going to be amazing to see if her team has used the last year, all the missteps that they did at the rollout of her campaign when Trump was pointing out, her state bar application in Texas, that she mislabeled her ethnicity. So Senator Elizabeth Warren, I may not personally agree with every point she does, but you have to recognize she is a powerful communicator. She knows how to hold attention, and she knows how to communicate very complex ideas without talking down to people.
I happen to think that she is far to the left of where Florida is politically, but I mean, she is an effective communicator.
Well, I would think that the ticket is going to be Biden-Warren. I believe that a woman is going to be on that ticket, and I'm calling it now. You can ask me.
Warren, wow.
Writing that one down.
Right, exactly.
I don't see Elizabeth Warren taking a VP slot.
Yeah.
I see Kamala Harris taking that slot, but
Maybe.
who
But
knows?
being a senator is sometimes more powerful than being a VP.
You don't want to
True.
campaign
Depending.
for the number 2 spot.
Right.
No, you do not. All right, stay with us. More Roundtable after a break. We are glad you are with us this morning here for the Roundtable. Let's talk a little bit about the hearings that have gone on this week in Tallahassee. Melba for Scott Israel, the former Broward County Sheriff. He is trying to get his job back. He is saying, I wasn't incompetent. I didn't neglect my duty. I trained these people. I can give them everything, the leadership. I can't give them courage.
Exactly. And again, obviously, we have to let the process run its course, let the hearings finish, and see what decision that the Senate comes to. But at the end of the day, I'm still disturbed by the precedent of removing elected officials in this manner. The people elected Sheriff Israel. If they are unhappy with the job that he did, it is the people alone who should be able to remove him. And obviously, Deputy Scott Pearson is now, well, he's facing charges, which is a separate issue. But at the end of the day, the issue lies with him and the officers who did not act in a timely manner.
Yeah.
I disagree with Melba because the people did elect Governor Ron DeSantis, and they made their voice clear on the campaign trail. He's, Scott Israel was elected by a majority Democrat county. Governor DeSantis, no secret, is a Republican, and when he was campaigning for votes, he made it clear, I hear you, I will take action. And the people of Parkland deserve better, and not just Parkland, because the BSO unfortunately botched the response to the Fort Lauderdale shooting as well. So it wasn't a one strike you're out,
Right.
at the airport at Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
So it's not a one strike you're out kind of deal with Governor Scott Israel, with Governor Ron DeSantis going against Sheriff Scott Israel, but he made the right call. He listened to the will of the people, and he acted within his constitutional
But
duties.
what about the will of the people of Broward, right? Because you're pointing out the demographic differences. Doesn't their voice count? If they want to get rid of him, let them do so in
I
November.
thought it was a very popular decision when he made that press conference and he was surrounded by all the parents of the Parkland victims.
Yeah.
In that Democratic county, everybody that was there was very much in favor. I mean, if you look at the polls, most people in Broward, I think, were in favor of that.
By the way,
decision.
he appointed a Democrat to replace Scott Israel, and one with key experience with mass shooting and training people in responses
Sheriff
to mass
Gregory
shooting.
Tony, who is running for re-election. Melba, I would point out that when Brenda Snipes was removed by the governor for incompetence and not doing her job, there wasn't this kind of outcry because it was pretty demonstrable. There had been serious problems in the Broward County Elections Office.
But at the same token, I'm always concerned when you have elected officials that are able to exercise this type of power and do so frequently, right? Because we didn't have this for many years.
Well, let's draw a parallel that I've raised in the past, that the former governor acted against the chair of the Broward Health System and David DiPietro, and David DiPietro went to court.
Right.
And he sought an order. The judge ordered a quo warranto hearing. And I felt really bad watching from the sidelines, seeing the poor lawyers from the Attorney General's office going representing the governor and trying to say, Judge, I'm here doing my job. I'm here so I don't get fined type of response to the judge.
Well, and we should point out, Scott Israel also went to court with Ben Cooney, a very fine attorney, and they lost. I mean, they lost
And
there.
they
They
lost
lost
in
in
the
the
appellate court.
in the
He lost
appellate
the
court.
That's why he's
so-
at the Senate now.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
If we can, before we run out of time, I want to, it's sort of a sore subject with me, a dear subject, which is the Coconut Grove Playhouse. I went there for many years. I think it was a great cultural institution. And now the Miami-Dade County, Marili, has sued the city of Miami to try to go ahead and move forward with its plan, which would demolish the auditorium, the playhouse itself, preserve the exterior, which is protected by historic preservation laws. What's going to happen here?
Look, nothing has been happening for a long time. I think when you drive through Coconut Grove and you see that playhouse all boarded up, it's a travesty. And something has to be done. The state which owns the property gave it to Miami-Dade County. City of Miami, the historic board, is the one that controls the appearance of the theater. So there's a fight over, whether the demolition of the back part, if you look from the back, it looks like a warehouse.
It's a box,
So Miami, now it's suing to revert the veto because the Miami Commission voted in favor, but Mayor Suarez, a friend of mine, for instance, vetoed that decision, and it has to do with historic preservation. The Miami Parking Authority would be the one that would be funding these renovations by creating a parking garage right next door,
it's
which is
one of
very
several
much
parties
needed.
involved,
But
yeah.
I think it's a very political matter, but I do have hope knowing the parties involved that they're going to reach a resolution because that's what most people in the city of Miami and Miami-Dade County want.
I think most people want a playhouse to be open, whether it's 300 seats or 700 seats has to be determined. We should point out also that part of what's going on here is a political feud between Miami-Dade County Mayor Carlos Jimenez and City of Miami Mayor Francis
It's
Suarez.
almost collateral damage. Unfortunately, the people are suffering, and so is the Coconut Grove community. But I don't think the county's lawsuit against the city really has a snowball's chance in hell right now, just by the dynamics. The Mayor Suarez exercised his duties as mayor, and he vetoed it. It hasn't been overridden yet, and so
It was not overridden because they needed to have a supermajority.
Correct.
They needed
and
three
they
votes.
only had
They only
three.
had three.
Correct.
That is going to be the final word. Thank you all for coming in.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it. Always a great roundtable with you. All right, still to come, my personal perspective about the passing of a great lady, a South Florida icon, Sister Jean.